Hey everyone, and welcome back to another installment of the Flower City False Leads. My name is Tim, and I'm here with you today with some games from our Fall Game Night kit that happened back in October. And this was right before Data and Destiny came out, so we're looking at cards up to Universe of Tomorrow. And so we're hopping in here in the second round, and on the left, we got myself, Tim, playing Noise, and on the right, we've got Mike playing Jinteki Biotech, which is, of course, the flip identity. If you're not familiar with it, you could spend 3 clicks to flip your identity over, and before the game you get to decide which of 3 you want. One of them does 2 net damage, one of them puts 4 advancements on a card, and one lets you shuffle in your archives. And so most of the time you'd expect it to just be the 2 net damage, because most of these decks are usually aimed at killing you. Sometimes you would play the 4 advancements to score out Niseis, that kind of thing. But against Noise, you might actually be playing the shuffle your archives into R&D flip. So I really have no idea which version he's playing. Knowing Mike, I would guess that it's the 2 net damage. Mike is a big Jinteki fan. He is a very big fan of killing people, so I would imagine that's what's going on. So we see the hands. I'm playing Noise. This is kind of that Faust noisy version that's been going on. So you see Wild Side, the Chronotype, which everybody just calls pancakes, and then a few other kind of standard medium, looks like Imp, Data Sucker, that kind of stuff. And so Mike is putting the screws to me straight away. Installs a remote with a piece of ice. I'm okay if he scores it. It costs him 3 credits for something maybe like a Brain Trust. At worst, it's a Nisei with a flip. So install Data Sucker and run into HQ. And it's plan B, so it's going to be a little tricksy here. So we get rid of that straight away before that becomes something terrifying. And okay, that one other card was the Street Peddler, which is just another fantastic card in Noise. So we've got some card advantage up on Noise and a Data Sucker counter. Mike draws up a couple and installs over HQ. So he's sitting on not a ton of money, but a lot of the ice that Jinteki is playing, especially in Biotech, I think, is pretty cheap. So the fact that he's sort of poor isn't a huge deal at this point. But again, since there is something in that remote server, I'm really okay if that's an agenda at this point. So I'm just looking really to kind of set up my board state, get some of my utility cards out, maybe mill some stuff off before you can get to it, and install a Data Sucker, and I go check before you can get Jackson on the board, and one of them is Future Perfect, so we're doing that thing. And the other one was Jackson, so as we're saying here in the game, pretty good mills. So I'm guessing I'm going to bet low. I don't remember what I bet here, but since I know where it is, I bet 1. So actually, the corp forgets to spend. So actually, what my thinking was there is it would make sense for me to bet 0 there because I can just keep running on archives to go grab it. So he knows I'm likely going to bet 0, so he'll bet 1 instead of 2. So I bet 1 to match what I think he's going to do, and it pays off. So we get Emotion, and picking one of 2 cards at random here, it's that one. And then he advances it again, so it's sitting at 4 advancements. So that is threatening that it's Ronin or something like that. So yeah, as I'm saying, it could either be something terrifying, like a Cerebral Overrider. It could be Ronin, or he could be trying to bluff out an agenda. So he's only on 4 credits. So I'm not too scared to just run into him at this point. I see there is the Faust in hand, but I'm a little low on money. So at this point, I really want to get into some credits. And this is a little bit of a weakness of Noise, is that his economy, until you get Aesop's Pawn Shop out, is very tight. And so if you can't draw that early or your opponent has a way of trashing it, then things can be pretty challenging. So just crediting up a little bit, and it looks like I'm thinking about installing something. That's a telltale sign that I need to get rid of. When I shift my programs over, it generally means I have something in hand that's installable, and it is a habit I need to eliminate. So, lesson to all of you out there, if you're thinking about installing something, don't telegraph it by sliding your stuff around on board. Oh, and it was a Brain Trust with an over-advancement. For the first time ever in the history of Netrunner, it's an over-advanced Brain Trust, which does reduce the res cost of his ice. So now I have to think about what could be resed for 1 more credit than he has, which at this point would be 5. So at worst case, it's Kamino or something like that. So we would install cash. That gets a little econ. At this point, really just looking for the pawn shop, because I see that there is... I think I saw that there was a Chronotype and perhaps Wild Side in hand. Oh, Lockdown. And so this is a little bit of the weakness of Lockdown, is that if the runner's just drawing early in their turn, which is generally good practice, then it doesn't do a whole lot. And so taking Imp off of the Peddler there, because I'm getting into HQ, unfortunately that does mean I don't get that pawn shop that was sitting on there, but couldn't quite see my hand. There might be another one in there. And we hit a snare. And I have 1 click left and can't draw cards with it because of the lockdown. So he fires the snare. So I'm taking a tag and losing 3 cards. I have 5 in hand. So really the only way he can kill me is if he has triple EMP in hand, because there's nothing advanced on the board. And he doesn't have enough clicks, or actually he doesn't have any money. So at this point I don't think there's any way I can die from what's on board. So he just monies up. I live to fight another day. So I draw up, likely remove the tag. Noise is very resource intensive, so you have to, unless you're playing a very different style, you really need to clear your tags as you get them. Because you have Pawn Shop, Wild Side, Chronotype, and Daily Casts is usually the majority of, is essentially all of your draw and economy. And so we play Wild Side, so get that rolling. Because at this point I do have the Pawn Shop in hand, so I'm looking to just start churning. And Mike is on 2 points to my 3, so I'm not feeling a ton of pressure at this point. Install, advance, take a credit. So it's a single advancement. It doesn't threaten being a Ronin kill yet. It would be at most a couple damage, and it's potentially a Nisei or something like that, so I go and check it. And it is instead the way I can't see exactly. It's the Wayland card that you get money for advancing Grindle Refinery. And so I leave it there because I don't have the money to trash it. So he's going to get a big payout on that next turn, which could be a problem. And so then I just get the pawn shop out, taking credit and playing it, so that'll let me get rid of that cash. And I'll be drawing into things with Wild Side. And so he just pops the refinery, which puts him at a pretty healthy 13 credits. And with that Brain Trust discount, it means that he can res some pretty terrifying ice right now. So I do pawn off the cash, that classic Noise move. And so we're looking at 4 credits. Wild Side is sucking up one of my clicks every turn, but at this point I want to be drawing into things. This isn't that kind of mill style Noise that people used to play a lot, where you're just, drawing viruses, playing them out, and not running. This is very much designed around running with the power of Faust, and then using the viruses as a supplement to make your runs more powerful, or as kind of a late game win condition, where they've just locked you out of everything and you just go for the virus mill. And so this is, at the time, I think was kind of the most popular Noise build. And there were only 3 Noise players at the tournament. We had 13 people turn out. I think I was the only one that was playing this style. The other 2 were more that mill style Noise. So looking at what I've got in archives, looks like Mimic is in there. I believe I see a clone chip in hand. Mimic is important against Jinteki. Important against most corps, I would say, because you're either looking at Architect in pretty much every other corp, and in Jinteki you're looking at a lot of sentries that are obnoxious but are of low strength. So you really want to make sure you have access to Mimic if you need it. And also, now that I know he's playing Lockdown, I'm wanting to draw early in my turn, which Wildside does for me anyway. So effectively, Lockdown is turned off. So I'm not super worried about face-checking things. And take $1 and play Clone Chip, so that gives me access to things I want. It also lets me, if I want to, bring a cash back on his turn and then sell it to Pawn Shop at the start of my turn. And now that I have Grimoire out, that's a 6 credit burst. So not bad, and it mills a card from him. So install, advance, advance. Okay. He's on 11 credits. I'm on 1 credit. So we play cash, which with Grimoire gives me 3 credits and pulls a card off the top. The card in his remote, I'm pretty sure is not Jackson, so I'm okay milling cards. And we do go face checking in. I have money to grab. Okay, so we hit Cortex Lock. Grimoire gives me +2, and I am currently using 4 of my memory. So I bring out Mimic for 3 credits, and I reduce the strength of Data Sucker, break it. It does put me at very little money, but it lets me get 1 card off the top. And we imp a Cortex. No, not Cortex Lock. A Crick, which is incredibly obnoxious, especially with Faust. And so was that an agenda all along over there? It looks like it was... okay, so he's advancing twice, so representing that it might be Ronin. And whoops, looks like he forgot to spend a couple credits, but that's alright. I don't think it ends up mattering. So we sell off the cash, do the wild side. So many start of turn triggers. Ooh, and you can see I'm sporting a lovely Flower City False Leads t-shirt there, which you can get for yourself, but they came out way more expensive than I wanted them to, so I felt bad advertising them previously, but they do exist. There's a link on the channel page, because they get printed one at a time, so they came out way too expensive. So I would I don't want to shoot myself in the leg, but I would encourage you not to buy them at this point. We're trying to get the price down. Anyway, Dirty Laundry clone chip. So he installs something face down, so it could be a Jackson. And has double advance or quad advance that other card that's sitting out there. So it could be a Ronin. If it had been an agenda, he likely would have stolen it. So I'm thinking it's either Ronin or a trap. So we deja vu back a couple caches. Play one of them, which again, 3 cards and a virus off the top. And then Dirty Laundry. And so Dirty Laundry was a card that I put in that I don't think is standard, I guess, in these decks. But you're wanting to check archives a bunch, and so Dirty Laundry lets you do that without losing tempo. Oh, and there were 2 agendas milled in there. So that is the game. And Mike is pointing out that that was a Cerebral that was 4 advanced. And that's the game. Yeah, he was using Medical Breakthroughs and Brain Trust, so it looked like to be some kind of fast advance out of Jinteki Biotech. But my mills were really lucky, so sometimes noise just happens. But anyway, thanks for watching. We'll have more games coming up from this tournament, including the second game between me and Mike, and then a few more rounds of Swiss. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys soon.